Good morning, and on behalf of the MICULAF Board of Trustees, welcome to the annual MICULAF Issues in Industry Political and Credit Union Briefing event. This event provides MICULAF with the opportunity to brief credit unions and their members on important happenings that have impacted the credit union movement throughout 2014. Today, we'll begin this event with the annual Grand Raffle drawing, and Patty Campbell, our event chair, will go over the rules and conduct the drawing in just a moment. Following that, Jordan Kingdon, Ashley Lagan, and Sarah Stevenson will walk you through the various segments of the briefing. To those here with us in Lansing and with us online via live stream, thank you for joining us today, and let's get started. Patty?
Good morning, I'm Patty Campbell, Chair for this year's MICULAF Annual Industry Issues Update and Grand Raffle Drawing. For those of us joining here in person, welcome, and for those on live stream, welcome as well, and thank you. Today, as part of this event, we're going to draw multiple prizes, one prize at a time, in descending order of value. The first prize we will draw today will be our grand prize winner. The second ticket we draw will be our second place winner. And the final five prizes that we draw will be our third prize winners. Each ticket will be placed in a marked envelope while it is being identified and validated. Now our rules. Following our ticket drawings, our team will confirm the eligibility of each winner, which is described in the house rules for this event. Assuming each winner is eligible, they will be notified as soon as we can reach them. If a purchaser of a winning ticket is deemed ineligible under the house rules or by law, their prize will be forfeited and a substitute ticket will be drawn. If a winner cannot be identified from the ticket stub or cannot be found, MICULAF will follow the procedures outlined under state law and regulation. Unless there's any questions, we will begin with our drawing. First prize, our grand prize, goes to ticket number 9463. Grand prize goes to ticket number 9463. Our second prize goes to ticket number 36152. 36152. The first of our third prizes goes to ticket number 40765. Ticket number 40765. The second of our third prize winners goes to ticket number 33930. Ticket number 33930. Over here. The third ticket of our third prize winner goes to ticket number 57013. 57013. The next third prize ticket goes to ticket number 34451. Ticket number 34451. The next ticket number, third place, ticket number 55713. Ticket number 55713. That completes our drawing for today for our winners. Thank you so much for attending today this year's drawing. We will now begin by verifying our winners. And the rest of the issues briefing will come over to our lead staff.
All right, thank you, Patty. Good morning, everyone from Lansing. I'm going to start off by giving a brief political overview from this year's elections for the credit union industry. In the 2014 general election, all 14 of Michigan's U.S. House seats and one of the U.S. Senate seats were actually up for election. Credit union-backed candidates enjoyed a large amount of success in this year's elections. 100% of our supported candidates actually won at the federal level. And in state races, all but 2 of our supported candidates won their election. The Michigan delegation retains a 9-5 Republican-Democrat split, with both of our U.S. Senate seats remaining Democratic. In the state Senate, Republicans actually expanded their supermajority by adding another seat to their caucus with a 27-11 hold in the state Senate, and the House Republicans also expanded their majority in the state House with 63 seats to 47 that were elected for the Democrats. In the U.S. Congress, several retirements this past year opened up a variety of seats, which made the election interesting. Longtime Michigan Senator Carl Levin announced that he would be stepping down from his U.S. Senate seat, of which Gary Peters won a resounding victory to replace Carl Levin in that seat for Michigan. U.S. Representative Dave Camp announced that he would be retiring as well. State Senator John Molinar was the victor in replacing Dave Camp in that district seat, the 4th district. Mike Rogers, a congressman from mid-Michigan here and chair of the Committee on Intelligence, he also announced retirement from Congress, and he will be replaced by former State Senate Majority Leader Mike Bishop. And long-serving Representative John Dingell also announced his retirement and will be replaced by Debbie Dingell, his wife. So we were very pleased with the election outcome. Several of these individuals are strong credit union allies, and we look forward to working with them in the upcoming year in the new U.S. Congress. Also statewide here, Governor Rick Snyder was successful in his bid for re-election, defeating U.S. Representative Mark Schauer, former Representative Mark Schauer, and also at the state level, Ruth Johnson won her re-election as Secretary of State, and also Attorney General Bill Schuette was successful in his re-election for his second and final term. Nationally, Republicans seize control of the U.S. Senate for the first time in 8 years, taking at least 7 seats. There are a lot of seats that still haven't been decided yet, so the final count is still undetermined, but what is determined is that the U.S. Senate will have Republican control starting in January. The 2014 lame duck session federally, we don't expect a lot of issues to be taken up, a lot of large issues to be taken up, because Republicans will be gaining control of the second chamber of the Senate, that we could see a flurry of smaller, non-controversial issues make it through the Congress in lame duck session. The larger issues, it's more than likely that the Republican-controlled Congress will wait until after the first of the year to tackle some of those issues. Here at the state level, and during the lame duck session, 37 out of 38 state senators are either completing their final term or have just won election for their final term and will need to be accountable to voters again for their re-election to the Senate. And so it could be a potentially very busy lame duck session here at the state capitol. Federal issues, as far as the legislative side of our business goes, we have comprehensive tax reform likely in 2014. An effort was started this year on that issue. Regulatory relief, there are a whole slew of issues that are very important to credit unions at the federal level, trying to exempt us from various provisions of the Dodd-Frank Act. Also GSE reform still needs to be tackled at the federal level, and things that affect our mortgage business are very important to credit unions. And of course charter enhancements, which would include issues like member business lending expansion and access to supplemental forms of capital for credit unions. When it comes to tax reform, we are very pleased this year to see that the draft tax reform proposal out of the U.S. House of Representatives, championed by Congressman Dave Camp from Midland, Michigan, went out of its, actually explicitly preserved the credit union tax exemption. We believe that this is crux to our structure and our movement, and it's critical to continue this exemption going forward. And we were very pleased that during a campaign this year where we spread the message across the country on the importance of the credit union tax exemption, that over 1 million contacts were actually made on Capitol Hill in support of maintaining our tax status in Washington. And also over 32,000 of those contacts came directly from credit union members and employees here in Michigan. All 16 members of our delegation, 14 U.S. House members and 2 U.S. Senate members here made public statements of support of our tax exemption. We thank them for their support. And in the initial discussion of the draft legislation, it holds credit unions harmless in every respect of tax reform. So we were very pleased that the tax reform effort started by clearly stating support of the credit union tax exemption. We'll continue to have to monitor this issue as it progresses in the new Congress going forward. Regulatory relief, there are several measures that continue to be discussed on Capitol Hill. A lot of those this year were actually passed out of the U.S. House, including privacy notice reforms, measures on IOLTA accounts, points and fees related to mortgage loan originators. And these issues haven't been taken up by the U.S. Senate yet, but we are hopeful that potentially these issues can be taken up in the lame duck session or possibly even early next year. The regulatory relief continues to be a huge priority for industry at the federal level. We continue to work with CUNA and our members of the U.S. House and Senate here from Michigan to try and increase the exemption thresholds for credit unions. We weren't part of the crisis that led us into financial tailspin as a nation, and these exemptions could provide really important relief to small lenders such as credit unions to make sure that we continue to put our resources where they're best needed, serving our members, lowering lower rates on products and services, and helping the economy. GSE reform. There were several proposals this past year that were introduced. One was in the U.S. House, the PATH Act by Chairman Hensarling from Texas, and that, as passed by committee, that proposal does not include the preservation of our 30-year fixed mortgage products. There was a proposal in the U.S. Senate by Senators Corker and Warner, a bipartisan package that would wind down Fannie and Freddie over a period of years. That legislation does include the preservation of the 30-year fixed mortgage product, which is important to credit unions. And several months following the introduction of the Corker-Warner legislation, Senator Johnson and Senator Crapo also introduced their version, which included a lot of provisions of the previous Senate bill, but even took some additional items further in their draft. We continue to work with those legislators on their draft legislation as an industry, and we look forward to continuing to work on refinements. Maintaining the 30-year fixed product is absolutely critical for credit unions. We also want to make sure that any new entities that are created, that those entities allow credit unions access to supplemental capital, allows access to the secondary market, and also give us a voice for the governance of the new structures that are created to replace Fannie and Freddie. Charter enhancements. Lastly, on the federal side, business lending and supplemental capital. There was legislation introduced this past year to raise the MBL cap to 27.5%. We had a variety of co-sponsors here from Michigan's delegation in support of raising that cap. There's also legislation called the Credit Union Residential Loan Parity Act, which would treat business loans on residential apartment buildings made by banks and credit unions equally outside of the MBL cap. And then, of course, there was again legislation to allow credit unions access to supplemental forms of capital as well. Credit unions still remain as one of the only institutions in America that can access supplemental forms of capital, and so we continue to seek that authority. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley Legat on our staff to talk about some of our state issues on the legislative side.
Thank you, Jordan. Just a few state issues of note. We're currently working on a couple of issues, including PRE, principal resident exemption on foreclosed properties, payday lenders, and installment loans, foreclosure process, technical amendments, and oil and gas leases. PRE on foreclosed property. Current state law purports to let financial institutions retain the PRE homestead exemption, but require the payment of the additional mills through the alternative statutory language. We have two bills introduced, identical language, one in the House and one in the Senate, that have both passed the Senate committee and sit on the Senate floor. We anticipate a vote coming up on that in lame duck on one of those bills. Payday lenders and installment loans. There was a bill introduced, House Bill 5594, that would allow a monthly service charge in addition to interest on installment loans under the Regulatory Loan Act. This legislation would allow up to 9.75% of the original loan amount to be charged per month, not reduced each month by the principal payments or annualized. A $1,000 loan over a 12-month period would be subject to an estimated 208% APR equivalent. This bill is currently in the House Financial Services Committee. We do not anticipate any action other than potentially a hearing, so we will continue to work against this legislation. Foreclosure process technical amendments. We had a couple of bills passed earlier this year that that is very good for the industry, but we have a couple of technical amendments that need to be made. The first one would fix a semi-substantive typo in recently enacted legislation that refined the process by which inspection of property during the redemption period by a purchaser occurs. The second bill applies the same recently enacted parameters on who can redeem a property to those properties that come through judicial foreclosure as those that now come through non-judicial process. Both bills have passed the House committee as well as the House of Representatives and sits on the House or the Senate floor. A couple of advocacy accomplishments at the state level this year. We passed foreclosure reform and inspection of property and redemption, UCC 9 deficient notice penalty amendments, recording process reforms for lost documents, electronic vehicle lien and titling transactions, urban blight enforcement and credit union exemptions, anti-card skimming prohibitions and penalties, campaign finance amendments, derivatives authority for state chartered credit unions, unanimous support for the credit union tax exemption from the Michigan delegation. And that is all for our state update. Sarah?
Thanks, Ashley. Just a quick regulatory update for everyone. As everyone knows, the first part of the year brought the effective date for the CFPB's mortgage rules. Since then, the CFPB has issued amendments to those mortgage rules, adding a points and fees cure provision under the ability to repay and qualified mortgage aspect of their rules. Additionally, the CFPB issued final rules regarding their integrated mortgage disclosures, which will be effective in 2015. A win for credit unions and the industry as a whole was the CFPB's amendment to Regulation P, allowing for an alternative delivery method for the privacy notices. Another amendment to the ability to repay rule clarifies where a successor in interest, or otherwise referred to as a successor, who has previously acquired title to a dwelling agrees to be added as obligor or substituted for the existing obligor on a consumer credit transaction secured by a dwelling. The creditor's written acknowledgement of a successor as obligor is not subject to the ability to be repay rule because such transactions do not constitute an assumption as defined by Regulation Z. If we didn't have enough changes to Regulation E in the remittance transfer rules, the CFPB also issued an amendment providing an extension of a temporary provision that permits insured credit unions to estimate certain pricing disclosures. This was set to expire on July of 2015 and has since been extended to July 21st of 2020. On top of the CFPB's amendments, the NCUA has remained just as busy in implementing and revising their regulations. Some of the most notable amendments include that of the NCUA's QSO rule, which would thus require credit QSOs that engage in what NCUA considers complex or high-risk activities to to report more detailed information, including audited financial statements and general customer information to the NCUA. The rule also expands the requirements to federally insured state-chartered credit unions, and they are now subject to the reporting requirements. In addition to the QSO rule, the NCUA issued rules addressing emergency liquidity and derivatives authority. Specifically, the emergency liquidity rule requires federally insured state-chartered credit unions with assets of $250 million or more to have access to a federal liquidity source for emergency situations. The derivatives authority also allows for federal credit unions to invest in otherwise prohibited derivatives investment in order to mitigate interest rate risk. The Michigan Credit Union League, as Ashley referred to previously, worked with the state of Michigan DIFS, our primary regulator, and another credit union to obtain parity at the state level for our state-chartered credit unions with the NCUA's derivatives authority. Lastly, credit unions should be aware of changes to the IRS FATCA rules. FATCA requires foreign financial institutions to report directly to the Internal Revenue Service certain information about financial accounts held by U.S. taxpayers or by foreign entities in which U.S. taxpayers hold a substantial ownership interest. If a credit union operates outside of the U.S., they would fall under this IRS requirement. And lastly, FinCEN issued clarifying definitions under the Bank Secrecy Act in late 2013, amending the regulatory definitions of funds transfer and transmittal of funds in light of the changes to Regulation E. Finally, on the horizon for next year, we are anxiously awaiting the NCUA's new proposal addressing risk-based capital. After the 3 listening sessions and receiving over 2,000 comment letters from credit unions across the nation, Chairman Matz and the NCUA board have indicated there will be a new proposal with significant amendments to the existing proposal, as well as the removal of interest rate risk, which they have indicated will be issued in a separate proposal. Credit unions will need to be working with their forms providers as well and core processors on the implementation of the CFPB's integrated mortgage disclosures, as well as training staff. The Michigan Credit Union League will be providing a number of training sessions as well to assist credit unions in preparing for these significant changes. Lastly, credit unions should keep an eye out for a final rule from FinCEN addressing enhanced customer due diligence requirements. Finally, I will give you a CRI update. So, the 2015 Credit Union Industries Community Reinvestment Initiative annual report will be issued early next year. The CRI report details, among other items, services and loans that are provided by credit unions to help members of low to moderate income, as well as many charitable efforts to improve the communities where our employees and members live and work. The 2014 report issued earlier this year focused on the Credit Union National Association's theme for Unite for Good. According to that report, the vast majority of members had a high opinion of credit union services and confidence in their credit union as their primary financial institution. Credit union members benefited by nearly $50 million in fewer or lower fees, $154 million in lower interest rates on loan products, and $23 million from higher interest rates on savings products. Michigan credit unions invested nearly $2.2 million in financial education in the prior year, with over 22,000 students learning money management at 253 credit unions in schools, and over 3,200 financial education presentations reaching nearly 60,000 students and incorporating materials into teachers' curriculums. This year, credit unions have continued conducting reality fairs in several communities to assist students in learning how to budget and manage their financial affairs. Something new this year for Michigan, the industry developed a guide and curriculum for schools on availability of training for skilled and high-paying jobs that may not require advanced degrees. The curriculum has been incorporated where appropriate into reality fairs and other programs in addition to other distribution. Last year, credit unions invested $2.7 million in scholarships and assisting nearly 3,000 students. Credit unions made $24.4 million in payday alternative loans and over 97,000 loans for members. For the Invest in America program, started by Michigan credit unions, nationwide members' savings through the program on vehicle loans topped $785 million. Finally, credit union support of small businesses topped $1 billion in loans last year, increasing by 26%. 2014 is shaping up as another promising year as credit unions to continue to support the engines of our communities. As of last year, credit unions employed over 13,300 Michigan citizens, not including credit union service organizations. Credit unions invest in ongoing education of members, employees, and the public in many areas, including financial literacy, to assist people and communities and to promote social and human development. In 2013, credit unions donated nearly $11 million to charitable causes and participated in or spearheaded over 4,600 community outreach and volunteer projects. Michigan's credit union community for decades promoting social responsibility, civic engagement, and the philosophy of people helping people. So thank you for attending our update today in the Grand Raffle. For those of you in attendance, please feel free to stick around for refreshments after.
On behalf of the McUF Board of Trustees, congratulations to this year's winners. We're going through a process of verifying them right now and contacting those folks. And have a great day. Thank you.